Hello learners, welcome. This week we are going to discuss block 3, that is this is the last block in this course, that is on development of tribals. And in this block, development of tribal, it consists of 4 units which highlights the tribal situation in India and the problems faced by them. This block also talks about the government schemes and policies on tribal education, and at the same time emphasizing on the health and nutrition status of the tribals. It also deals with the policies and framework with respect to the empowerment of the tribals. And in this block there are 4 units, as I said. So today we are going to discuss unit 1, that is about tribal status and development strategies. It discusses the tribal situation in India and in particular the problems faced by the tribal people. The unit also throws light on the tribal welfare development measures and the institutional setup as well. This unit also talks about the present status of the tribe in today's India. So today we will discuss this unit in detail. Let us move on to the objectives. After reading this unit, the learner should be able to know the tribal situation in India. The learner also will try to explore the different problems of tribals in different corners of the country. The learner would understand and study the different strategies and programs of tribal development. The learner would also know the different institutions that are primarily designed for the welfare and protection of the tribal interest. And finally, the learner also would know the present status of tribals in India. Now moving on to this unit, we all know that the very essence of development studies is a normative preoccupation with the poor, marginalized and exploited people. In this sense, it should be in the first place inequality rather than diversity or difference. That is the main focus for development studies: inequality of access to power, to resources, to human existence, in short, inequality in emancipation. And guided by this thought, it is a common understanding among the policy makers, civil society organizations, social workers and academics that different communities have placed unequally in Indian society. The unequal position of the tribals in the Indian society leads them to suffer from various forms of discrimination, marginalization and subjugation. This leads to voicelessness, powerlessness and social exclusion of tribals. When we look at the structural profile of the India's population, one important striking feature is that a measure of disparity exists in the ownership of productive assets as well as the income distribution among the various sections of population. The scheduled groups of the country are placed in a comparatively unfavorable position in terms of assets ownership and income distribution. They comprise in urban area the urban poor and the rural areas, the rural landless and marginal and small farmers. It is also felt that there is a serious imbalance in the ownership of assets and income distribution, coupled with widespread unemployment and underemployment which has worsened among these sections. In addition, massive majority such as the scheduled tribes are remaining socially discriminated, economically exploited and politically marginalized. Hence, it has been called for serious concern among the policy makers and planners to think of all-round development of these sections. So in other words, the planners and policy makers try to address 2 important questions, such as what do we want to make the tribals out of their present status? And they also ask the question, what is the nature of the future of the Indian society that we want to develop? Reckoning these thoughts, organized attempt both at the national and at the state levels was made only during the post-independence period in the light of constitutional provisions, characterized by the value of justice, social, economic and political and other welfare measures for STs. This attempt was made through a series of 5-year and other plans, the scale, range and quantum of assistance for tribal development which has grown enormously. So to put it differently, the marginalized and discriminated position of the tribals compelled the state to respond to these situations positively with the expansion of its inclusive character by underlining the importance of adopting different developmental policies for the tribals in India. In short, the welfare of the vulnerable tribal group has always featured prominently in India's plans and policies. Now let us look at what is the tribal situation in India. The term scheduled tribe is an administrative and legal category. This term is of recent origin, which came into being with the birth of the Republican Constitution of India on January 26, 1950. Prior to that, they were variously termed as Aboriginals, Adivasis, forest tribes, hill tribes, and primitive tribes. And there is no definition of a tribe in the Constitution, but one may distinguish with some characteristics that are generally accepted, such as self-identification, their language, distinctive social and cultural organization, economic underdevelopment, geographic location, and initially isolation. So all these has been steadily and in some cases dramatically eroded. Now also many tribes still live in hilly and or forested areas somewhat remote from settlements. A tribe is a social group, the members of which lives in a common territory, have a common dialects, uniform social organization and process, cultural homogeneity, having a common ancestor, political organization and religious pattern. But it is difficult to find all these features in tribes. The scheduled tribes are notified under Article 342 of the Constitution as the tribes or tribal communities or part of or groups within these tribes and tribal communities that have been declared as such by the President of India through a public notification. The purpose of this classification was mainly to pursue an inclusive development policy of affirmative action, some of the past injustices experienced by these communities, and to integrate them into the socio-economic mainstream society through special development programs. There was also a hot debate in the Constituent Assembly on using ST or Aboriginal, but the concept ST was unanimously accepted as it carries fixed meaning because it enumerates the tribe. The term was used mainly as a mark of identification and differentiation, that is, to mark out a group of people different in physical features, language, religion, custom, social organization, etc. The importance of the term was to define the Adivasis. In the year 1951, the Commission for Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes proposed common elements to the definition of who the tribals are as tribal origin, primitive way of life, remote habitation, and general backwardness in all respects. The criterion for determining tribal character was set up by the Lokur Committee in the year 1965, which included the following, such as indication of primitive traits, their distinctive culture, the geographical isolation, their shyness of contact with the community at large, and backwardness. So these criteria did not assume the final eligibility of a particular individual to be included in the category of ST. Thus, the real difficulty in setting out formal criterion for defining a tribe arises from the fact the tribes in India have been for some decades remains in transition. According to 2011 census, the tribal population of the country is 8.6% of the total population. When we look at the compositional structure of the Indian tribal population, it is observed that more than half of the scheduled tribe population is concentrated in the states of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Orissa, Jharkhand and Gujarat. The main concentration of tribal population besides central India in the northeastern states. However, tribals have a presence in all the states and union territories except Haryana, Punjab, Delhi, Pondicherry and Chandigarh. It has been noticed that a particular tribe is not confined to a particular state and they have been spread in different states. The tribes predominant in Chhattisgarh include the Gonds, Maurya, the Hill Maurya and the Murya, and the Durwa, while the dominant tribes of Chota Nagpur are the Munda, the Santhal, the Ho, the Kharia and the Oran. The Gonds are spread over Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh and Orissa. Similarly, the Bhils are found in Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Maharashtra and Gujarat. Then there are the Gonds, Kond, Santal, Saro, Paroja, Koya, Munda and Oran tribal communities in Orissa, with the Munda and Oran also to be found in Bihar. The Gonds include several subgroups and are to be found in 4 states. The North Indian tribes include the Tharu, Dhurwa, Boksa, Korwa, Bhuya, Chero, Maji and the Bihar. There are certain tribes that are nomadic while some others practice settled agriculture. The Birhor, for instance, which is now almost on the verge of becoming extinct, includes a section that is nomadic. Other examples of depopulated tribes are the Chero and the Mal Paharia. Then there are also other denotified tribes or tribes that were earlier known as criminal tribes. These tribes were primarily nomadic. There are about 36 such groups in Uttar Pradesh, 34 in Gujarat, 41 in Madhya Pradesh and 35 in Maharashtra. Some of the unknown denotified tribes in North and Central India are the Bavaria, Kanjar, Bhatu, Bheria, Meena, Harni, Dom, Sansia and the Bailoj. The different tribal communities live in about 15% of country's area in various ecological and geographical conditions ranging from plains, forests, hills and inaccessible areas. The tribal groups are at different stages of social, economic and educational development. They have drawn from more than 500 communities, with many overlapping communities in more than one state as notified under Article 342 of the Indian Constitution. Broadly speaking, the tribals have concentrated in the following regions of India, such as in the northeastern region. They are living in the mountain valleys and other areas of northeastern India, covering Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland and Tripura. Here the tribes live such as Abor, Garo, Kasi, Kuki, Mismi, Naga, etc., who mostly belong to Mongolian racial stock. And when we look at the Himalayan region, in the hilly areas and sub-Himalayan areas, which covers the part of North Bengal, Sikkim, Uttar Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, etc., there lives a number of tribal groups like the Lepcha, Bhotia, Rabha, etc., belonging to Mongolian racial stock. And when we see the central India, here they live in the older hills and Chota Nagpur plateau along the dividing lines between peninsular India and the Indo-Gangetic basin. Here again the tribal communities like Bhumij, Gond, Ho, Oran, Munda, Santal, etc., covering the states of Bihar, Orissa, Madhya Pradesh and West Bengal, and mostly belong to Proto-Australoid racial stock. And if you see in the western region, this covers the states like Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Dadra and Nagar Haveli. Here also a number of tribal communities live, and the most important of them being the Bhil, racially belonging to the Proto-Australoid group. And when we see in the southern region, it covers the states of Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, in the Nilgiri hills and covering lines of the Ghats. Here the tribes live such as Chenchu, Irula, Kadar, Kota, Kurumbe, Toda, etc., having Negrito, Caucasoid, Proto-Australoid or mixed physical features. And when we look at the island region, here again this covering Andaman, Nicobar and Lakshadweep islands, they also have a number of small tribes like the Andamanis, Onge, Sentinelese, etc. And as per Census 2011, the population of scheduled tribes in the country is 10.45 crore. The STs constitute 8.6% of the country's total population and 11.3% of the total rural population. The population of scheduled tribe male is 5.25 crore and the scheduled tribe female is 5.20 crore. The ST female population growth rate that is around 25%. It is higher than the ST male population growth, which is 23%. Now let us see what is the state-wise share of tribal population. Madhya Pradesh ranks first with 14.7, followed by Maharashtra and Odisha 10.1 and 9.2 respectively. Rajasthan has 8.9% of tribes, Gujarat 8.6 is a little ahead of Jharkhand, which is 8.3, and Chhattisgarh has a share of 7.5. Whereas among the southern states, Andhra Pradesh has 5.7 tribal population, in West Bengal it is 5.1, in Karnataka it is 4.1%, in Assam it is 3.7, and in Meghalaya it is 2.5 tribal population. And rest of the states, they compose around 11.6% of tribal population. Now when we see the sex ratio has shown the lowest ST sex ratio at 924 in 2011. In respect of STs is 990, which is higher than national average of 943. Also, scheduled tribes sex ratio has improved from 978 females per 1000 males in 2001 to 990 in 2011. Other states like Goa, Kerala, Arunachal Pradesh, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, etc. have shown high ST sex ratio, while Jammu and Kashmir has shown the lowest ST sex ratio, that is 924 in 2011. Now moving on to the literacy rate of the scheduled tribe population. As per census figures, literacy rate for STs in India improved from 4.71% in 2001 to 59% in 2011. Among scheduled tribe males, literacy rate increased from 59.2% to 68.5%, and among ST females, the literacy rate increased from 34.8 to 49.4 during the same period. The literacy rate for the total population has increased from 64.8% in 2001 to 73% in 2011. There is a gap of about 14 percentage points in literacy rate of STs as compared to the All India literacy rate. Now, when we see the backwardness of tribal areas, to some extent it corresponds to their geographical isolation due to the rugged, mountainous and forested terrain of the major tribal areas of the plateau and the northeast. The social and physical infrastructure in the tribal areas is scarce. Moreover, the data which is available only for the state as a whole on district wise, it gives misleading image, as it does not reflect the much skewed distribution within the district or the state. There are extremely backward scheduled tribe areas even within states witnessing high growth rates. While coming in contact with the rest of India's with rapid development in communication, the attitude of central and state governments to make the children study in the official language of the state, a process of linguistic change has occurred, leading to losing of original languages. The introduction of grassroots democracy has proved a bane to the tribes, as the keys of Panchayat Raj system lay in the hands of socially and economically dominant sections of population. These dominant sections modified the tribal welfare policies against the favor of tribes from whom they had profited through exploitation. The dangerous impact of industrialization on the tribes not only covets their mineral rich resources but also leads to their displacement. To understand the current situation of the tribal population, it is essential to formulate appropriate and effective schemes and programs to have a holistic inclusive development of tribals. The indebtedness is a normal trend for the existence of tribes. The defeat of privileges over land and forests, lack of supply of food grains, ignorance, spending beyond their means, loyalty to panchayat decisions regarding fines are some of the reasons for perennial indebtedness. When we look at the health, migration, housing, drinking and depopulation, these are the other problems that the tribes face. If depopulation can be attributed to socio-cultural and biological aspect, the other problems due to the living style and misery where the tribes cannot come out and are part of beliefs, traditions of the vicious circle. The development is not only identifying the tribal area and introducing development programs, but there lies a vast variety of issues from understanding their socio-cultural dimension, tribal mind, problems of tribal land, greedy neighborhood, execution of programs in a right direction, accountability, vigilance, training the tribes in science and technology. Above all, the protective measures and development programs will have their effect only when the forces of destabilization are checked and measures are applied to solve them. So, to conclude, we can say that if we look at the current situation of the tribal population, we need to understand the situation of the tribal population. For that, it is essential to formulate appropriate and effective schemes and programs to have a holistic, inclusive development of tribals. So, without proper understanding of the current situation of the tribes, the policies and programs may not achieve the intended objectives. So, learner, hope you would have understood the tribal situation in India in a holistic way. Hope to meet you in the next session. Thank you.